Okay, it's pretty much fully saturated now. Well, you know, I have to top it up a little bit overnight, sort of thing. It keeps taking a little bit until it's totally saturated. But I've got on spot culling so you can see what it looks like, and we'll see how the moss, you know, starts to take over. And we'll put our control weeds in, our CP related control weeds, our false dandelion, and we'll put in our cypress plants. As I said, I've been testing them all out there. Of course, it comes from Copper Island, of course, so, you know, cypress, Copper Island, so it can handle borate, it can handle copper, aluminium, high magnesium, bit of calcium, no problem. So it's also a monocot and has this unusual green look to it at certain times of the year. Can handle going right through our summer, just growing out there, not being watered at all. So it's as tough as nails, basically, and it's a good, as I said, some of the liverworts we see are growing down below the bulrush infestation or plantation, you want to call it, sort of thing. And we're thinking, well, do these monocots, do they detoxify the soil, or because they produce whitewood, we know that whitewood can't latch on to the iron as the oxysulfide. Only the brownwoods appear to do that. So this is implying that peat, which is derived from sphagnum, implying that sphagnum is a whitewood, basically, you know, a lower form of plant life, basically. So do only the higher forms of plant life produce secondary mature wood sort of thing, or is it to do with the bark? Because I went back to all my photographs of CPs growing on logs, and every single one either had the plants growing on areas of the log where the bark had fallen off, or they were growing on moss which was on areas of the log where the bark had fallen off, or the log was completely denuded of any bark and they were just growing all over it, sort of thing. So yeah, there's sundews, basically. So you might want to check that, go back. But yeah, as I said, it's bullshit. You can grow them in. Every time this rains, it gets totally flooded. They all do. And yeah, it's starting to grow back, and it's got some other, it's going to divide. It looks like it's going to divide. And the coloration on this fly trap that's starting to come back, give me a couple of, it's only been 2 weeks, but give me a couple more weeks when it gets larger, and I'll photograph it more thoroughly, and we'll see how these go. But yeah, it was a bit of it's a chink in the armour, basically. And I was seeing some pitting on the petioles of this one too, so, you know, yeah, you don't get pitting like that on peat and sand and all that sort of thing. So, you know they're telling you bullshit. They're either mixing something in or doing something else. They're not actually using what they're saying they're using, basically. So yeah, so you can get away with whitewoods. And and remember, if you go back to the old books, Donald Schnell and Joe Masrimas suggested that the best medium for growing, at least for Sarracenia, was a live long fibre sphagnum. So it was live sphagnum, and it was long fibre sphagnum, and they said that was the best. And of course, if sphagnum is a white wood, it would explain why this is working. So anyway, we'll try this. As I said, I never did this flooded before. It grew the plants quite reasonably, nice thick stems and all that, but I never did it flooded. There may be something to the flooding where there's a slow breakdown. Oh, the other thing we did learn is there's no nitrogen drawdown on the wood when it's flooded, which is, and I would thought would be a very important salient point, almost as important as trichoderma can grow underwater. So is it really a true strict fungus, you know? Because they say fungi are all strict aerobes. Either they don't know everything out there in the real world, or they're keeping some of these salient points to themselves, sort of thing, which means they're not scientists, and it's not scientific, basically. They're just companies, basically, you know, gouging a niche in the market, basically. By you know, so you always got to go back for the, you know, it's always prepping for your plants. You know, it's always putting your plants to bed in the autumn and all this sort of going down the shop, buying this, buying that, spraying this, spraying that. You know, everything's got a side effect, and one day when all these side effects interact with one another, someone's going to live forever. And say, oh, hang on, oh shit. Yeah, I know, I'm waxing lyrical, I'm having some fun, but it's pretty tough. This I've got pots out there. I did them all basically. I put cypress through them all. I don't know what species it is, but I do. I have seen the heads on certain photographs. So if it is dioecious, it's going to take a little bit more work to track down exactly what species it is, and whether we truly do have a one species or we got a hybrid or something. Because if it's dioecious, you might be able to get a inter-hybrid between a female of one and a male of another, and yeah. Anyway, pretty tough. It's a monocot. Now, the thing is that BK down over in South Africa did a lovely video set. One, he did a fantastic one on soil media, only leaving out charcoal and isolite, or polystyrene, basically. Oh, probably cotton wool as well, all the white stuff. He did a lovely long video on potting media, and it was very good, very informative. He really knows his stuff. I can tell from what he was mentioning that he really knows his stuff. And he also did one about bromeliads being sensitive to both copper and boron. So this is strange, because this is a monocot too, but it doesn't seem to be. It seems to be impervious to copper and boron. So interesting. So it's in the same grouping as the bromeliads, because their bromeliads are monocots. And back in my day, years ago, I would have said, can you name a monocot CP? And it would have been hard, it would have been a bit of a struggle. But these days we've got about 3 bromeliads that are, we've got Catopsis and what's the other genus? I can't remember off the top of my head. But in my day, it was a struggle to name a monocot CP off the top of your head. Most of them are dicots, basically. So this is very interesting. This sort of, when he mentioned it, the bromeliads were sensitive to copper, just like CPs are. I thought, there's got to be something to it. And the fact that these cypress things can get that strange, eerie sort of green colour to them, is almost as if they're fixing their own nitrogen from the atmosphere, or they're inculcating some form of cyanophyte or some sort of symbiotic relationship internally, sort of thing. But anyway, I just thought I'd set this up and show you, and I'll show you over the next few weeks, and we'll see how it goes. But I think it's going to be as good as that. I think it's going to be, basically it's the chink in the armour of the orthodox dogma bullshit that's been going around in our hobby for years and years, and it's just preventing the hobby from developing. And you can see all these commercial places just plugging out these things, and they've got some beautiful plants, and there's obviously been a lot of information being discovered in the last 30 years or so, and it's just not flowing through to the public. And the public are just sort of like mugs going in there buying these money for jam sort of thing. And you go home and they just cark it. You go back next year for another one, and overseas in Europe they're selling back in the 90s, I've actually got a letter from someone saying that they were selling like 25 million fly traps a year or something. It must be like 50 million this year or something, And I swear to you, they're probably not selling them. They're selling them more than €1 each. So and there's more than $50 million of in quotes, produce or product being pushed out one end of the greenhouse. I saw some videos saying that they were growing like tilangias. They were taking 5 years to grow these tilangias, so they were putting them in one end of the greenhouse, and 5 years later they were going out the other end of the greenhouse to the public. And I'm thinking, isn't that a bit of a risky business? I mean, surely they're actually growing them faster than that. I think they probably are. They're just saying, well, if it takes 5 years to grow, we can charge a higher price. It's probably more bullshit. That's probably what it is. It probably just takes a season to grow, and they're saying it takes 5 years. And probably strictly true, it probably takes some of the species 5 years to grow, but most of the others, they probably do it in a season or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised. I've seen and heard a lot over most of my life, so and there's a lot of bullshit out there, as we're probably going to find out in the next few months. So once the shit finally does go down in America. But I don't know what's holding them back. I mean, I got more confidence in the French than I have in the Americans at the moment. I mean, if they catch Macron down some dark alley, he's gone, basically. I think he's going to go the way of Ceausescu, I think. They're going to catch him down wheel in the guillotine, gone, and that's the revolution. It's begun. Once Macron's gone, I mean, the guillotine, that's the beginning of the second French Revolution, I think, and that might tick off America. I said, well, if the French can do that, after what's been going down in Afghanistan, oh, God. I mean, I just can't understand it. I think, the veterans must be absolutely livid, leaving all that. Have you seen the list of the stuff that they left there and the prices? And it's just incredible. When you see that list, it must make some of the, I don't know, someone's going to do something, I reckon, something. I'm predicting you're probably going to get a JFK situation pretty rapidly, pretty soon. Either that or they're going to invoke the 25th Amendment very quickly. Yeah. Hopefully Trump will be back by the end of the year and everything can get back to normal and normalise, and all this Rona bullshit can settle in the dust, settle in the wind or anything. Anyway, that's about it. Just thought I'd give you an update and a bit of a gas bag. And I said the season is changing, but if this works, this is totally going to change how we grow CPs down under and probably in South Africa. Because having a flooded bucket, I mean, you only have to add 100 mils or something probably every day on a really like a 46-degree day, but every few days. And it's a lot easier to water. I mean, you can set up a little trickler system or something, just to top it up of an evening. Anyway, I just thought let you know and fill you in. Said, found the chink in the armour. Whitewood doesn't react with iron the same way as brownwood does, and it appears that peat, even though that's coir over there, by the way, but peat it looks brown, it's not actually a brownwood. It's really derived from a whitewood, the sphagnum. Maybe that might explain why this thing they say that sphagnum doesn't contain lignin, but the cation and exchange capacity of peat is proportional to its lignin content. So if peat is derived from sphagnum and sphagnum contains no lignin, where does the lignin come from? See, another one of these sort of scratch your head sort of, are they telling you porky sort of thing, or is it really true? Is it strictly true? All these sort of things, these derivations you have to think about. I mean, you don't want to call someone a liar by accident, do you? Oh no. Okay, well that's about it. I've had my little rant for the day, and yeah, they're still growing. Not the best though, but we might get a surprise. See, cotton wool contains the gamma bond, so in other words, if it's 85% saturated in water, basically flooded, it doesn't rot, and it's also resistant to seawater. So you use it in the maritime industry basically, because it's resistant to rotting and doesn't break down when it's flooded. So it'll be interesting to compare this to this whitewood, this wood shavings, whether it does. I'm assuming this is actually breaking down very slowly. I think it's breaking down more slowly than peat does, but anyway, by the looks of it, because normally peat goes down about a centimetre over a good season, I suppose. About that. And compare this is urea from aldehyde Floral-FOAM, Smithers OASIS, very resistant. Basically, does it really degrade sort of thing? So it'd be interesting to compare these three and see what happens. Does this break down hardly at all, and therefore there's no nutriment, or does it support a specialist biological life? And ditto with all these things as well. Will this house a specialist biotic life in the soil basically that will power the plants? I don't know. And same with this. But all I can say, what I do know, is you don't want to use a brownwood, you don't want to use coir because that's a brownwood, and you don't want to use anything that is a true brownwood, because if you've got any iron in the system, it will react with the brownwood and form iron oxysulfate, and you don't want that. I think this is what I think we've worked out this season, is you don't want your iron. Some plants are resistant to it, like the cypress, which is a monocot. Whether that's important or not, I don't know, but our CP dicots don't seem to be able to handle it for some reason, whether it kills off a particular biotic portion of the life in the soil that is important to them, I don't know, but I assume we're going to start to slowly crack the problem down over the next season or two and solve all these problems